Hello, this is Mark from Productive Computing and Productive Computing University. You are about to watch a selected JSON lesson from our free course called JSON Fundamentals for FileMaker Developers. Knowing how to create, parse, and manipulate JSON is essential in order to integrate FileMaker with the world of APIs, Claris Connect, artificial intelligence, and more. In this complete course, we'll cover everything you need to know about JSON from the perspective of a Claris FileMaker Pro developer. We're making this course available for free because we feel it's an important and essential building block for you to understand in order to advance your skills to the next level. And once you learn how to manipulate JSON formatted text, you are that much closer to accomplishing your first API integration in your own FileMaker apps. And like all our other courses at Productive Computing University, this course comes complete with downloadable FileMaker files for you to use and follow along with. These downloadable files are available directly in selected lessons inside the course. There's a link in the description to enroll in this free course called JSON Fundamentals for FileMaker Developers at productivecomputinguniversity.com. Okay, now let's dive into the lesson. Okay, this is part 3 where we parse invoices. We've just parsed customers, and our script is relatively simple, but in short order, it will be quite a bit more advanced in no time. So this is where if you have to pause the video or rewind it or take it step by step with me side by side, don't be shy. That's a normal part of the learning process, especially if you're somewhat new to programming in general and loops and things like that. It can be a little confusing. I've chosen to put all of the loops in a single script, but you also have the option to make a subscript. You could make a subscript here that says, go and add an invoice, and then make another subscript right below that, go and add the line items, and you could tear those off into separate scripts. It might be easier to digest, but I also find that there's a lot of bouncing around at that point, having to manage 3 scripts. So it's really up to you how you handle this, but I'm going to do it in one script. That way we can see it all in one shot and sort of follow it along. I think for me, it's a little easier to have a bigger, longer script in a case like this, but not always. Sometimes subscripts are exactly what the doctor ordered. Okay, so now we need to make some room here because right after we parse this first customer, and before we loop back to the next customer, we have to identify if there's any invoices to be added. So we're going to put a comment here and call it invoices. And for that, we can choose to go to the layout. I suppose I can go to the layout, but we're going to do that in the loop too. So we do need to loop it. And we'll do a go to layout. In fact, we'll make this loop not unlike the one we already have, where we'll go to a layout, we'll create a new record. We also need to identify the total and set a variable. So let's do that. Let's grab these two because we're going to do something very similar here in invoices. Okay, so first, we don't want to have it C total. That would be customer total. We want this to be I total. So for invoices total. Naming your variable something unique and identifiable really does make a difference. It speeds up your development and avoids a lot of mistakes. So I'm using I for invoices, C for customers, and I'll eventually use L for line items. And then I use the word total, indicating the total records in the set to be parsed, and the non-total, just the I for the counter that we're currently on. So let's take a look at how we're going to parse this. It's a little bit more advanced. We can't just go to customers. We have to go one level deeper to get to the number of invoices for this customer. So for that, we need to include the array bracket here, the straight left bracket, and then we'll put an ampersand because we need to know that we're on customer 1 before we can count customer 1's invoices. So that means we're going to need that C counter again, which will be 0 when this passes the first time. And that tells us that we're looking at customer 0, and then we will join it with a quote and then a closing right bracket, straight bracket, a dot, invoices. Okay, so that means we will count the number of invoices, or better said, we'll display the keys for the invoices and count them using value count. So that'll get us our invoice total. Then this variable here needs to be changed to the I. Okay, and then we need a way to increment that. So we have that down here. Let's copy these two script steps, put this at the end of the loop here, and change it around a bit. This is going to be incrementing the I variable for invoices. And then this is going to count the I total when the I total equals $I. There we go, and that'll exit eloquently there on the invoices. Now it's just a matter of parsing the invoices. So we'll do a set field, and we want to look at our invoices table, and we want the invoice ID. And how are we going to parse the invoice ID? So we'll do the JSON get element. JSON is what we're going to parse. What's our key? So our key starts with customers, and then we need which customer. So we need to include the counter for that, and that's the $C counter. And then we'll join that with the closing bracket, a dot, and then invoices. That will get us into the invoices array, and we need a counter for that as well. That's already constructed. It's called $I. Combine that with a closing bracket, and our first item to parse will be invoice ID. Like that. So looking at the customers array, looking at the first customer, within the first customer, we're going to be combining that with invoices. Then we look at the invoices array, we identify the right invoice, and then we parse the invoice ID for whatever invoice we're on, indicated by $I. Okay, so I'll save that. That's the invoice ID. I'll duplicate this, and we'll put the invoice date. And then we need a customer ID. It just so happens we have the customer ID here, but at the moment we're not related to this field, so we can't just pluck it out of thin air. I could parse the customer ID again, but that's making the script work hard to parse something that it's already parsed. So I will instead do a set field. We'll target the customer ID in the invoices table. And instead of parsing JSON, we will simply do this, customer ID, and we'll use this variable, and we'll set this variable up here. Right after we get the customer ID, we'll set a variable so that we can use it later on for invoices. So customer ID, and that will equal the customer ID from contacts, which we just populated in step 12. Now in step 13, we're turning right around and putting that in a variable. Now you could reverse the order. You could put it in a variable first and then parse it with the JSON in that, and then set the field. But I think this is fine. We'll set the field, we'll grab the field and put it in the variable. Then we'll have the variable here ready to go, and I won't have to worry about piping in a special relationship or using a global field. I can do it all here with this quick and easy to use variable. And I think that's it. I think we're ready to now test this process. Oh, there is one thing I need to do here on step 28. It's not invoice ID that I'll be parsing when I do the date. We need invoice date. And we need to also accommodate the proper date. So let me build that in the data viewer. I'll copy this formula now, and we'll go to the data viewer and do that as we speak. I'll hijack this existing formula, and I'll paste this here. Comment this out and backtrack a little bit here. Let's see. Let's make sure we still have some JSON. No, our JSON has been removed. It's because we haven't run the script at least once in this session. So let me monitor this, and we'll quickly trigger this script up here. Save the script and quickly get the JSON into the variable, which I've done here. All right, let's finish this. Okay, so there's the date as it comes from the raw data. We need to turn this around to make it a valid date field. So what I like to do is create this whole thing in a let statement, and we'll call it let d, which is a new variable we'll create here on the fly, equal the date. And then we can use the date function to get the month, day, and the year. So we need month, day, and year. So another thing I like to do is put a comment here at the top of my formula and put in the format that I'm working with just so I can concentrate on counting characters. So this is 2023-01-05. So we need the month, which is right here. So I want to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for 2. So that's going to be the middle of D, starting at the 6th character, going for 2 characters. And that whole thing, that will take care of our month. Our day is going to be the last 2 characters. So we'll do right of D for 2. And then the year is the first 4 characters. So left of D for 4. And we'll close this let statement. And now we will have a properly formatted date like you see here. Okay. I just need to copy this. And then we'll go back to our script and edit that. In fact, we'll halt the script here because we're going to start that in a minute. And this is over here down by where the date is. And we'll paste this here. And we could leave this here as a reference, but there's no need for that at this point. I do need to change this 0 back to $C and $I. Okay. All right, let's put this to the test. Let's delete our existing 5 customers. And of course, we have no invoices already created because we haven't gotten that far yet. And I think that we're ready to go. Oh, I need to make sure I go to the right layout here for the loop under Invoices. There we go. Now we're ready to go. All right, so we'll start this at the top. Got our JSON, we'll create our counters, and we'll create our first customer. We're confident that the first customer will work because we've already put that to the test. Now, invoices, we'll create our count of invoices. So how many invoices do we have here? 1, 2. We're looking for 2. So let's go to our current lists and see what we've got. And we have I equals 0 and I total is 2. So far so good for our counts. Then we go to the layout invoices and let's see new record. And voila, we've got our invoice ID. We've got our invoice date properly formatted. And we've got our customer ID as we inherited that from the variable that we set over here on line 13. Okay, now we loop and we go to the next record, parse that one, and hopefully our total is 2 and our I count is 2, so it should exit the script, or exit the loop, I should say. But we're not quite done yet because we're not done parsing customers. So it goes to the layout for customers and creates the second. There's Jane Smith. Now, Jane Smith has 1 invoice with 3 line items. So that should be it for Jane Smith. It is. Now we'll go to Bob Williams. Bob has, looks like 3 invoices for Bob Williams. 302 and 303. Then we're on to the next customer, Alice Johnson. Alice looks like she has 2 invoices. So we'll zoom through those. Then Charlie Brown. Charlie Brown, I know, has 1 invoice, but 5 line items. And it looks like we are done. And Charlie Brown's invoice was also on the 10th. Okay, perfect. So we have successfully parsed customers and invoices. Let's just quickly review what we've got so far. We grab our JSON. We set our counters. Then we do a total count of customers. And we parse, creating a new record for every customer. After the first customer is run, we immediately turn around and go look for invoices related to that customer. We do a count there as well. And loop through and create as many invoices as necessary, using the same exact technique that we have for customers here for invoices. Then after the invoices are created for customer 1, it goes down here, sets and recalibrates the counters, tests to see if we exit the loop, and then it starts all over again. Now you can see why we needed to go to layout here in this loop and layout here in this loop. All right, that takes care of part 3. Thanks for joining us on this lesson. To enroll in the free complete course, click on the link in the description or visit productivecomputinguniversity.com, where you'll find both free and paid courses on today's most important topics related to the Claris FileMaker platform.